off the bat. We're going to remove item 11F, Parks Canada Campground Water Services Agreement Report. Parks Canada and city staff are working through an amendment to that agreement now, so it would be premature for us to even discuss that until they come up with some concise message for us and an amended agreement. So we're just going to remove that. So seeing that and stating that, I'm going to ask for someone to adopt the amended agenda. Councillor Juncker, Councillor Ryan, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Going to move on to the adoption of the minutes, regular council minutes of January 14th. Someone want to move that for me? Councillor Brooks-Hill, seconder. Councillor Charlotte, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Any business arising from those council minutes of January 14th? Councillor Juncker.
Yeah, just a question in regards to the SILGA resolutions. Like, what are we supposed to be doing with that? Are we submitting them to Ms. Lowe, or does it have to be formally presented at council, or how's that working?
Ms. Lowe, do you want to weigh in on that?
So, Your Worship, there is a couple of ideas being floated around by management that will come forward at the next council meeting, so we have to get them done before the end of February, so that were initiated at this table, discussions that we're talking about at this table.
And if there's any from councillors, just...
If you wouldn't mind sending them to me as soon as possible, that would be great.
Yeah, just want clarity on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further business regarding those council minutes? Seeing none, I'm going to move on to announcements from the mayor. So a couple things that I just want to mention. This past week, we finally received a signed document from CPR, so we have negotiated the price for the roundabout. We do have the signed document, Mr. Black. So it is complete. We are now going out. Mr. Black's already started a negotiated request for proposal to build the roundabout. So I'm excited that we've got all of that in place and we can move forward on that. Also, for those of you who've been out and about, you may have seen a couple new signs at the entrances to Revelstoke, the new signage from the Wayfinding sign. So there's some samples at each entrance. And they look quite nice. So, Ms. Braun and your committee, I thank you for everyone who's worked on that. And we're lucky here locally. We have live theater. So we have 100 locals in the production of Shrek. And I want to just congratulate everyone who's involved. I understand now all the performances are sold out. And I'm looking forward to seeing this later this week, and I know some of my councillors have already seen it and have expressed an absolute great desire for it. So kudos to all of the people that are involved in that live production. All right, we are going to now move on. So we're going to go to number 9A, bylaws, start with engineering loan authorization. So any presentation before we move forward? Are you okay with me just putting this on the table, Mr. Black? Councillor Elliott, you got a question?
I was reading the paper with the CSRD funding. There's $100,000 for the organic waste at the waste management facility. Is that correct, or what's the status on the?
Moving on.
If council and you, your worship, have no questions regarding the report, please move forward with adopting the recommendations.
Okay, so we'll put the recommendation on the table, and if we have any questions, then we can do that. Councillor Juncker, would you like to do that? You have your hand up?
Yeah. We're going one by one, right?
One by one.
Yeah. Now, third reading of the wastewater treatment facility upgrade phase 1 loan authorization bylaw number 2240 be rescinded.
Is there a second to that motion? Councillor Charlotte. Any discussion on the motion?
So, I know that there's 5 pieces, but just for clarity and for public knowledge, it's kind of confusing. My understanding is that we're rescinding this as the loan, or not the loan, the grant that we originally applied for was denied. Thus, we need to resubmit we are resubmitting for a new grant and then passing a tentative new bylaw, which would, is that my understanding? Correct?
I believe that's correct, but I'll ask Mr. Black.
You are correct. The previous grant amount was 13.7 roughly. This grant is approximately 13.6. In the last 2 years, we have purchased a piece of equipment that was part of the original grant program, which is another grinder for the wastewater treatment plant. So hence the total dollar value, which is odd, has gone down in comparison to the previous grant application. And so in order to be spot on with the loan authorization to the province under this grant application, we needed to rescind the previous dollar amount and come forward with the new dollar amount.
Okay, answer your question. Any further discussion on the motion? Councilor Arnold?
Do you know how much the substream is for, like the entire grant program?
I do not. I would like to introduce to council Ms. Caitlin Hinton, who works in our environmental coordinator in my group, and she is very familiar with most of the reports that are coming forward today.
Except I'm not familiar with the total. That's okay. I just thought maybe someone had that.
I think if I remember at UBCM, they had mentioned that there was, 3 or 4, probably 3, and each one was like a couple $100 million.
It takes? Just 3 or 4 intakes?
Couple or 4 intakes.
Yeah.
3 or 4 intakes,
Okay.
each one was a couple $100 million.
Okay.
Okay. That answer your question?
Yeah.
Anything further?
Yeah, but I'll save it for the next one.
Okay, that's fine. Does there anyone have any other questions regarding the rescinding of the bylaw? Okay, can I ask the question? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Moving on to item number 2. Someone want to put that on the table?
Yeah, the wastewater treatment facility upgrade phase 1 loan authorization bylaw number 2240. Be amended to decrease the estimated cost of the construction from $13,637,000 to $13,593,000, and to decrease the borrowing amount upon the credit of the municipality from $3,641,000 to $3,573,247. You got that?
Second for that motion, please. Councilor Charlotte. Any further discussion on the motion? The reason we're seeing these motions come to council is because they're loan authorization bylaws, and it's council that needs to ratify them and approve them. So that's why we're seeing this come to the table in this section. Seeing no further comments, I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Moving on, item number 3. Someone want to put that on the table for me? Councilor Charlotte.
The wastewater treatment facility upgrade phase 1 loan authorization bylaw number 2240 be reread at third reading as amended.
Seconder for the motion, Councilor Junker. Any discussion on this motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Item number 4.
That a grant funding application for phase 1 of the wastewater treatment facility upgrades be submitted through the Investigating Canada Infrastructure Program Green Infrastructure Environmental Quality Substrate.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Councilor Ryan. Any further discussion on that motion? Have any more questions, Councilor Ryan?
Yeah, so if we don't pass this resolution, then we're not eligible for the grant because we wouldn't be putting up the loan, the correct loan amount, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, that's all I wanted to clarify.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any further discussion, Councilor Junker?
Yeah, I just think that let's all cross our fingers and toes. So hopefully we're successful this time around with it. And I think the report was really good, and it talked a little bit about that we are going to be beginning the liquid wastewater management plan, which hopefully might show the province that we're rolling. So hopefully we can get this.
Councilor Ryan.
Did they give us feedback on the last application? Was it because we didn't have the plan in place? Or
Ms. Hinton, do you have an answer to that? I see you nodding your head. That's why I'm asking.
Mr. Blunt, do you want to answer that?
You are correct. And typically, you complete the liquid waste management plan prior to. However, we are reviewing the structure of the grant application itself in order to show that whatever infrastructure we are putting forth in the grant will be required whether or not the LWMP is in place. So we're trying to structure this application such that it is what it is. Okay.
That's good.
Any further discussion on the motion? Councilor Elliott? You look like you're going to ask me questions. All right, so I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor of this motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on to 11A staff reports. These are replacements for our councillor that quit. And So if someone wants to put these on, I'm going to add one more at the end as well, dealing with the CSRD. So item number 11A1. So we'll put that on the motion on the table. Councilor Brooks Hill.
That Mayor Gary Sulz replace Stephen Cross on the committee to approve public events.
Seconder for the motion, Councilor Rind. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Brooks Hill.
Not necessarily specifically to this one, but just generally, I would assume that when we have a by-election and have a new councillor, we'll review the committee
Yep,
placements.
we're probably going to shake them up and then get everybody to look at it and see where they feel they want to be. And so I'll make some recommendations and then we'll talk about it at council. So my stepping in, and especially in a couple of these, is definitely until we have another councillor on board, and then we're going to go back out to all of you and say, okay, where do you feel you want to go? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, any further questions or concerns? Item number 1, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Moving on to item number 2. Councilor Rind,
That Mayor Gary Sulz replace Stephen Cross on the CSRD Economic Development Commission.
is there a seconder for that motion? Councilor Gillette, any further discussion on that? I will sit on that temporarily until there's a by-election, and then we will bring that back to all of council and decide who's best suited to take that on so that I can step back. Okay? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Item number 3. Councilor Juncker.
That Nicole Shurlett replace Stephen Cross on the Revelstoke Community Forest Corporation Board of Directors.
Seconder for that motion. Councilor Brooks Hill. Any discussion on the motion? Okay. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Now, moving on to the next 3, I had not put names in there, and I wanted to discuss with you who felt that they would like to take on Okanagan College. So before we put the motion on the table, is there any of you that feel inclined to sit on that advisory committee?
Isn't, Mike, aren't you on that committee?
You're
Library.
library.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I thought that too.
You want to take on the college as well?
I'm willing to, for sure.
Okay.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah, I
Is
am
that-
curious when and how frequently the meetings are.
I think they're infrequent. Once a quarter, Ms. Braun?
Yes, I'd say once a month.
Once a quarter, so once every 3 months. And I think it's at a variety of locations.
It's usually held at Algonquin College,
It is here.
and it's a partnership when they bring people in from stakeholders and community.
Okay. That work for you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to suggest that we put Councilor Brooks Hill in there unless somebody else wants it, and we make this motion.
That,
Councilor Juncker.
Councilor Brooks Hill replace Stephen Cross on the Okanagan College Local Advisory Committee.
Okay, is there Councilor Charlotte seconding? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Moving on to Revelstoke Accommodation Association. Is there one of you that would like to sit on that board? How do you feel? You sit on, and so,
Recommends you.
Councilor Elliott, you would like to sit on that?
Either one.
Okay. Either one? How do the rest of you feel? Anyone else want to sit on it?
Okay, we should probably just, well, the staff recommended that Councilor Juncker be appointed to both of those remaining two.
That wasn't staff that recommended that.
It says, staff recommend Councilor Juncker be appointed to both RA and RTAC.
Oh. Yeah.
No, it's interesting, that's not in my,
It's at the very bottom, under it's the last staff report, under all the motions,
Admin committees.
amend committee appointments.
Mayor just lets me know.
well, that's news to me. I know that there was a suggestion from these people suggesting that Councilor Juncker did it, and I said I need to know capacity, so that's why we're
Yeah, I
doing
don't
it
know,
this
I don't
table.
know the capacity, or like.
Your
I know my
capacity. Yeah, that's why I'm thinking about
Yeah, I don't know, was it in there? I honestly skimmed through this one on the committee appointments. What's the time requirement for these committees? I don't even, who sat on RTAC before? No, that's a new.
It's new.
Nobody sat, or no, it's not new. and
Well,
nobody sat
Raw, we're
on-
talking about Raw first, are we not?
Okay,
Yeah.
well, how often does Rob meet?
I think it was once a month, is it not?
They meet once a month over lunch. It revolves around
I think, and Revelstoke Tourism. I'll just, yeah, that's a lot.
RTAC is an advisory group that meets, they hadn't met for a year, so they had the first annual meeting a few weeks ago, so there may not be another meeting on the horizon for several months.
So why don't we put one of you on one and one of you on the other?
Yeah.
Councillor Elliott's interested in sitting on one of those.
Yeah,
You're
okay.
interested in sitting on one of those.
I think I would probably prefer to sit on the raw one, but again, it's if you whatever you guys want to do. Just because I sit on the TIC, so the MRDT and the RMI and all that is like this. So I think with our previous councillor, it was kind of challenging to get he sat on one and I sat on the other, and then we tie in together, but it didn't really tie in, and I don't know. So I think, yeah, I'll sit on the wrong if that's fine with you guys.
Would you be okay with our TAC?
Oh, yeah, I'm indifferent.
Okay, so why don't we do that?
Yeah, sure.
You like lunch,
I
he
like
likes
lunch.
dinner.
Aw.
We're gonna move on.
I'll let you know how the lunch is, and then maybe we'll
All right, so on Raw, we're gonna put Councillor Juncker. So let's make that motion first, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Sure.
Councillor Ryan,
That Cody Yonker replace Stephen Cross on the Revelstoke Accommodation Association.
seconded by Councillor Sherlatt. Any further discussion on that? All in favor? Motion's carried. Number 6, we're gonna put Councillor Elliott in there. Someone wanna make that motion, please? Councillor Brooks Hill.
That Councillor Elliott be appointed to the Revelstoke Tourism Advisory Committee.
Okay, seconder for that motion, Councillor Juncker. Any further discussion on that motion? All in favor? Motion's carried. Opposed? Nobody's opposed. We'll see, guys. Jackie's not moving here. Okay, so there is an item 7. It's looking for an alternate for the CSRD, and I've spoken with Councillor Sherlatt on this, and it meets her scheduling. And I've spoken with the CSRD CAO, and so I'm going to recommend that Councillor Sherlatt replaces Mr. Cross as an alternate for me as a municipal director on the CSRD. So, go ahead.
Yeah, just a procedural question, which I totally support Councillor Schleck going on. When you amended the agenda at the beginning, you removed F but didn't declare 7.
And so when I was talking with our
Just
CAO
curious.
earlier, they said that as long as I did this, then was I wrong in procedure?
No, you're
Okay.
correct. It's fine. This is what's on, it was overlooked. Adding
Just
the
curious how it
resolution,
works.
so to add it into the discussion that we're having is fine.
Just throw it in. Perfect.
Okay, so item number 7, if someone wants to move that, then,
I can. Yeah. Yeah,
you okay
Councillor-
with that?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Unless anybody else wants to send it, I don't have the time to do that. And Councillor Brooks Hill, I mean,
I think it would be a bad idea for me.
two Brooks Hills.
we did have a little chuckle about that last night, Councilor Brooks Hill and that. But anyway, yeah, it would be a little awkward, so.
Yeah, I'll make that motion. Are you fine with that?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Motion's carried. So congratulations to all of you for stepping up to the plate and taking that on. So we're going to move on to item 11B. Someone want to put that motion on the table?
Yeah, sorry, yeah. That the mayor and director of corporate administration, oh, it's big, be authorized to execute the partnering agreement amendment between the city of Revelstoke, Revelstoke Mountain Resort Limited Partnership, the Revelstoke Accommodation Association, and J. Bryden Road, doing business as Everything Revelstoke for the provision of municipal services effective January 1st, 2020, and expiring April 30th, 2020, being the operation of a shuttle bus service between locations within the city and Revelstoke Mountain Resort.
Is there a second for that motion? Councilor Sherlatt. Any discussion on the motion? This is a couple new buses have been bought. This is dealing with some extra service costs and whatnot. Ms. Braun, do you want to weigh in any further on this?
I can answer any questions you have. It's fairly
Anyone have any questions? Councilor Ryan?
Yeah, so this is all RMI funding, right?
No, my understanding is gas tax funds the shuttle bus operations. In future, we may be able to look at RMI as a source of funding, and we'll be beginning negotiations for the new contract after April 30th. So this is just to get us through from January to the end of April for this current ski season.
report then, because at the end it says the city portion is funded by resort municipality initiative funds and as such has no impact on taxation.
Well,
That's under financial implications, unless I'm looking at the wrong thing.
RMI was used to purchase the buses, but the gas tax used to fund the operations.
Right, and
Which is not-
because that's not eligible for RMI funding because it's
Right.
operational? Okay. Anything related to operations, so like none of the repairs or anything like that?
No.
Okay, I see.
Councillor Younger.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's just
Okay.
kind of misleading because there is then a tax implication. I mean, gas tax funds are great, but we could use those for other things as well, right?
Correct.
So it is a bit misleading. Just wanted to put that out there.
Okay. Any Councillor Younger.
I was just gonna, I noticed that this was in the paper as per legislation. I was just curious why it went into the paper prior to us actually voting on this. Because then the paper would have been wrong if it was for whatever reason denied. I'm just curious.
So I'm going to ask Ms. Lowe, when our council agendas get published on Friday to the public, we have no control over what the newspapers tick.
No, this was in prior to the
Okay.
agenda.
To your worship, it's required by law that we do notification to the public prior to approval, so that
Okay.
goes out to the public, and if there's anything that we need to deal with, council knows before they approve the actual agreement.
Perfect, good to know.
Okay. Councillor Lake, you have a question?
Just, BC Transit was supposed to get back to us with a summary of the transportation issues in our town. And I think everything Revelstoke was supposed to be, the new shuttles, we were trying to find a way to combine the shuttle with the transit buses. Where's that at?
Okay, Ms. Braun?
Yes, BC Transit has kicked off their service review. We had the first engagement meeting a few weeks back. And they will be coming to council in April and presenting to the committee as a whole on the annual performance summary from 2019. And we'll be presenting some options for considering how to move the shuttle bus service and BC Transit service closer together over the next year. But the service review itself takes almost a full 2 years to complete. And so the purchase of these buses was to get us through the next couple of years. So that is underway now.
Is that so 2 years to complete seems excessive? We've had a problem with the transit bus for quite some time, and another 2 years. It seems like it's such a routine to go through. I'm wondering whether we can.
We've always indicated to BC Transit that we would like things done in a speedy process, and yet here we stand. We know that they have 2 years to complete their process, to be complete and thorough, et cetera, et cetera. That doesn't mean that behind the scenes, Ms. Braun isn't motivating them as we move forward. So I just want you to be aware, even though that they say that they're going to take up to 2 years, they may be able to come up with something that gives us some proper and instant answers regarding this. Councillor Shaw.
Yeah, just a little further to that meeting, they were quite clear that that April presentation, there should be some quick wins they can put in place right away. And then a general vibe at the meeting, there was, I think, about 23 people in attendance at that meeting to bring a really broad perspective from the community. And they really saw the desire of Revelstoke to really revamp our our transit system in a way that they might not jump to, because a dramatic change can be big, but they see that the community supports it. And a big part of that time frame involves the purchasing of buses that can take up to 18 months. So that 2 years is done from now until finished and operational and going. So the presentation should be great and be updated where they're at. One of the things I was curious about with this, if I may, through the chair, is whether, from my understanding, it'd be great to hear any updates that through the BC Transit review process, everything Revelstoke's going to be doing a variety of different ways of surveying the community, including driver surveys and ridership numbers. And I'm just curious, because in the report it's talking about the service so far and what they're predicting for revenue from it. I'm just wondering to hear a little bit about how they're capturing the data from that.
Okay. Ms. Braun, do you have any information regarding capturing data regarding their updates?
Following the last meeting, the BC Transit Service Review Manager, Bronson Boulevard, was preparing an engagement strategy the next back any day now.
Okay, great.
And that will lay out different options for engaging the public with ridership. I think the key thing that the stakeholder group is interested in finding out is a latent ridership and how we can reach those people who don't currently ride the bus. And this is where this committee, which is, by the way, an offshoot of the collective impact process, looking at large transportation issues, and they are very, very ready to engage and hit the ground running and take the survey out into the community and capture that latent ridership information.
Good, thank you. Okay, one more question, and I'm actually going to pull us right back on task here because we've got off a little bit from the motion that's on the table. Do you have a
I'm just
question?
wondering whether BC Trans is a contract that we agreed to. Should they be leading the negotiation process or the investigative processing in the demand? Or is that something that should be going outside of BC Transit?
Well, my understanding is BC Transit province-wide leads their own initiatives when it comes to how things are moving with their transit division and with their routes. So I think as long as if this is in motion, I think we should let it stay in motion. That doesn't mean that we can't weigh in and Ms. Braun can give input and whatnot with everything Revelstoke because they're now the operators can give input, and as Ms. Braun's already said, they're already doing different surveys to see what's going to be the best for the community moving forward. Does that answer your question? Councillor Charlotte?
Just a quick comment that if you'd like to hear, because there is a community-led process that Ingrid was mentioning, collective impact, and I've been meaning to make sure that all of council is signed up for the email updates that go out about once a month. That's giving updates on all the different action teams, including the transportation team.
This should be just
If you want to be-
component of it, not the leader of it.
It's two different processes that are connected and interlinked.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on the motion on the table? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on to 11C, Wayfinding Strategy. We have a presentation.
Yes, I'd like to invite Andrew Thompson, who we met previously, who can see this design. He came and presented in July on the signage audit and the draft plans for moving forward with the wayfinding strategy. So he's going to lead you through the final strategy that everybody's worked on over the past year. And and then you can answer any questions you have as well.
Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you.
We'll let you start the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Ingrid, and thank you, City Council. Nice to be back here and see everybody again. As Ingrid said, I'm here today just to present an update on where we're at with the City of Revelstoke wayfinding strategy. The last time I was here, we were probably in the middle of the strategy in terms of helping to develop the overall plan and some of the design components. We've now finished that and put together a budget and an implementation plan, and we're essentially ready to go in the first phase. So just to walk everybody back through the process that we've been following, Cygnus was engaged in May 2019 to help work with the city and tourism to develop an overarching wayfinding strategy and approach for the City of Revelstoke. And some of the key pieces that we were looking at was the economic impact of what this would have, so increasing dwell times, making it easier for people to find their way around, just overall awareness of enhancing some of the beauty of what Revelstoke has to offer. And I've been fortunate enough to come up here a number of times, not only in the summer, but now in the winter as well, and got to ski at your resort finally, so it was really great. So really just trying to make sure that all of these amenities that Revelstoke has to offer are easily accessible, and wayfinding will help to pull some of those pieces together. Obviously, navigation and moving through the city itself is a key integral part to why we're developing this strategy, and also aligning with City Council's overall objectives in terms of livability and infrastructure, and helping to update some of the existing parts and pieces that the city has. Along with the resort development strategy, this component ties into that piece. So we followed a phased approach here for our process to get to the implementation plan. And just to run you back through this process quickly. So phase one was our inventory and analysis. So we conducted a site audit. We did an online survey to gather feedback, and we also did workshops in town to engage with the city. So out of that piece, come on, quicker. Sorry. Oh, there we go. This was just some of the highlights from our audit. So a number of things: sign clutter, inconsistent use of the bear icon, a mix of advertising and wayfinding pieces, some visibility challenges, some contrast challenges. So overall, our goal is to really pull together a very cohesive approach for signage and wayfinding throughout the city of Revelstoke. This was some of the feedback that we had received from the online survey and from the workshops. And you can tell through this is just a part of it, but wayfinding came up as a big component, and certainly something that everybody felt strongly about improving. So taking all that information, we started work through our design and development phase. We went through a number of different concepts, presented those to the council and to the city of Sulz. Those were then refined into what you see here, taking the elements out of different pieces and pulling that together. This was all part of working with tourism as well with the city to help create a very cohesive approach. And based on that, we did more engagement, and tourism was very helpful in helping to push this forward. So there was some key stakeholder meetings, pulling everybody together around the table. There was 2 engagement sessions at the farmers markets with boards that tourism had printed out and pulled in, and we got a lot of really great feedback from locals and visitors alike. And also my trip up here to do a presentation to Tourism Revelstoke, and also to engage with the public in an open house that we had. All the feedback that we've received to date has been very positive, so we've started to push this forward into what we're calling a wayfinding strategy manual. So this is all the parts and pieces that the city would need to help move this forward. Graphic standards in terms of the look and feel, the colors. We're using the Revelstoke tourism piece, pulling that together just to make sure that there's a cohesive approach moving forward. Using the red, the burgundy that you see a lot downtown. We felt that was an important element to tie into the city wayfinding piece. Looking at planning and where all these signs are going to go as part of the implementation plan, so starting to plan out locations. This was based off of our site audit, so having toured Revelstoke ourselves, a lot of these signs are looking to replace existing signs. There are also new signs as well, depending on where we felt that people needed extra help with navigation. I think specifically parking came up, the sandy dump as a piece where people can get to. So certain elements that will help people navigate throughout the city. We also had material components, so really tying into the history of the city, so the railroad, some of the different elements. The brick was a nice tie-in as well. Working with an aesthetic that was sort of rustic and true to nature. And then helping to actually develop all the specs and standards for the wayfinding program. And this is just one example of a page that we have of the design intent drawings that are ready to go out to get pricing from various vendors. And where we're at right now is essentially putting together the bid documentation. Ingrid and I have worked together to develop an implementation plan and a budget for how this is moving forward, and looking to get council's approval today so we can move forward with phase 1. So this is the final wayfinding strategy package, where we've landed in terms of the overall look and feel and the aesthetics. We feel there's quite a nice tie-in here with all the parts and pieces that are Revelstoke. And again, developing a 6-year plan here for the implementation. So this will take time, and we certainly recognize that the budgets are tight. So the first phase, we're just under $550,000. That's all with RMI funding, and we're looking to move that forward with this first phase in order to get some of the wayfinding pieces started. thank you. Really appreciate your time and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate you coming forward to explain this to us. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Ali?
So year one was $5.5 million.
Correct.
What's the total? For six
The
years?
total for 6 years, I think we were at about 3.8 million.
Okay, and is that all anticipated from RMI or no? Is the-
Probably not. We don't know at this stage yet. We're certainly looking at other funding sources in terms of where the money can come from. But for right now, the first phase, we wanted to make sure that no taxpayer dollars were going towards that. And as we start to move forward as part of the implementation, we're going to work with the city to help allocate budgets and look to see where we can find different components and where the priorities are. So that we'd like to think of this as a living document. It's going to evolve as the process evolves. And really phase one is really trying to focus on some of the biggest, highest impact pieces. So the big gateway signs that you see coming in, what's currently the welcome sign, we're going to replace that with a big illuminated Revelstoke sign, and some of the parks and the banners. So really that first phase is trying to hit some big impact items. And certainly over time, I mean, we're looking to refine those budgets, and getting a fabricator on board will definitely help to refine some of those numbers.
Anyone else? Any questions? Councillor Shillett?
Yeah, just looking through the phasing, this is exciting to see this come together, but there are quite a few phases. I'm wondering if we have, I understand the difficulty of trying to predict funding, but looking at the price tags for some of these, do we have any idea of total time frame, like a window?
Ms. Braun?
Through your worship, phase one, we call them phases as opposed to years, because phase one I anticipate taking 2 years to implement. It's already getting to the year late. We have to find suppliers and contractors. Phase two is a bit more achievable, given some of the city departments that are also looking at roundabout development, Victoria Road signage, and moving on to the further phases. Those are really a vision of what could happen in town, but it's not by any means written in stone. So it's meant to be a living document to guide future spending for replacement of existing signs. I think Andrew said about 80% of the signage in here is replacement signage, and about 20% is new signage.
Does that answer your question? Councillor Yonker, then Councillor Ryan.
Yeah, for me, this is a terrific project. It's the #1 priority of the tourism initiative community. This is something that we desperately need to take Revelstoke to the next level in terms of tourism and economics. And I can tell you the amount of times people come into my business and find where the rec center is, because the signs are just, it's bad. But I think, obviously the timelines, and obviously I would want to see it move faster, not take so long, but I think it's important to note too, number 4, and that's why I'll be looking forward to hearing back from staff, is I didn't realize how much actually, in terms of legislation and policy, is going to have to be changed.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just speaking with Ms. Wade, the old sign bylaw contradicts the new sign bylaw, which contradicts the strategy and whatnot. So, I'm just saying, I think we just need to be wary of that. And we have a current resort strategy for RMI. They have put it in the base budget, so we would assume that, but assuming is risky, that after this strategy there will be more funding, but you never know. So, but we have the committee put aside this money for it to get phase 1 going. Great. So I'm in full support. I think we should absolutely support all of this and commend the work that all the stakeholders have done. This is going to be huge for us.
Councillor Ryan.
It's good. At $3.8 million, it feels like this sign should be made out of gold or something, but it looks like there's a ton of really good work that's been going on, so that's great, and it's nice that we have that funding. I guess, just to your point about getting something started and then potentially not having that funding source, and then having like really inconsistent signs would be a concern, and then that would really fall on taxpayers pretty heavily. I mean, like, it doesn't matter if our signs aren't consistent, but then it sort of looks a bit heck, I don't know.
Already know it already.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, everybody kind of thinks, maybe I'm crazy, but like, it's sort of like charming the way it is now, right? But then you go to a place like Whistler and you're like, everything looks the same. Anyways, I get it. I totally understand the value in it. It's just a little bit sad. I don't know.
If I may, there's 550,000 is not the total ROI amounts of money, but the committee wanted to make sure that all the funding doesn't just go to benefit one project, that it's spread out so that the community can see many little things.
That's good.
So I think it's 1.6 million or something is the base. It's like 692 is the base each year, and that's affected based off the hotel taxation, and then that's how they come up with a number.
Right.
So that's not saying that the committee in the next couple of years might go, yeah, let's give all one point whatever it is to it. But I think I totally hear your point, but I think you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you don't do it, you're left with the mess. If you do, you're not guaranteed funding, but you're not guaranteed funding if you don't try.
Good.
Yeah.
So, do you have any questions of Andrew while he's standing here? Otherwise, we'll start putting these on and we can have this discussion at that. So, any questions? Councilor Ryan, do you have a question?
Yeah, so the part that you're doing, like all the planning and stuff like that, it doesn't include the project management piece, or does it include some?
For the piece that we've done right now, or for moving into?
Just moving into phase 1 of implementation.
So we have built in some fees for Cygnus to help manage the first phase of the project. In our experience, it is a full-time job in terms of helping to push that forward, getting a trusted vendor on board, and just managing that first portion of the project to make sure that everything goes smoothly. So we have built that into the budget as part of that piece to take some of the load off the city as well. I certainly appreciate, we've done this in other municipalities and they've tried to take it on themselves, and it is a lot of work in terms of, especially rolling out that first piece of it. So we have allocated some of that and thought through that as part of the budget.
That's good.
Any further? Councilor White.
So the $3.6 million, that's a significant investment in the community, but comparable to, say, a Whistler or other resort communities that may have gone through a revamp on the sign, do you think they've probably spent comparable that amount to it?
Easily, yeah. I don't know Whistler's, because Whistler has gone through this just recently, and I can't speak to how much they have spent, but it would be easily within, if not double, just based on the size.
But it's certainly, there's a cohesiveness that generates an identity for a community, and it's somewhat like glue.
Good.
We all rally behind this thing, so it does have value. So I think long-term something area for something how we sell it.
Perfect. I agree. Any further questions of Andrew?
You can put it on.
Okay.
I just have one other question.
Yep.
There's no way that we can allocate funds to helping clean up the bylaw situation, right? Because that's internal to the city. I'm just wondering, if it's going to take development services resources, aka tax dollars, to make our processes align so that we can implement this new project, the wayfinding strategy, then is there any way that we can apply for our funding for that? Probably not, but I just want to know.
Through your worship, Ingrid could probably talk more to the detail of exactly what the criteria is, but operations are not, they don't meet the criteria, correct?
So, Your Worship, that's right. RMI funding is specifically for building and creating the infrastructure assets, which can include project management, but cannot include any planning costs. So, for instance, for developing the wayfinding strategy, we partnered with tourism to match funds to hire Cygnus Design to prepare the entire plan. But additional funds for supporting revisions of bylaws is not eligible.
Even if we contract that piece out?
No.
Okay. And we thank you again for coming, for presenting to us and making it fairly clear what's on the table and how we move forward. Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks again. All right, Council, there's motions on the table. Councilor Juncker,
Yes, let the wayfinding strategy be approved.
seconded for the motion. Councilor Charlotte, any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on to number 2. Someone want to put that on the table? Councilor Councillor Charlotte.
That the Resort Municipality Initiative, RMI funding, recommendations in the amount of $550,000 for wayfinding signage be approved.
Seconder for the motion, Councillor Elliott. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on to number 3. Councillor Charlotte.
That an agreement with Cygnus Design to undertake project management of Phase 1 of implementation of the wayfinding strategy be developed.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Juncker. Any discussion on that motion? Councillor Ryan.
Who determines and negotiates those rates? Is that part of the plan already, like in their proposal, I would assume?
Ms. Braun, do you care to weigh in on that?
I would actually defer to Ms. Wells, who you were at the meeting with staff and senior management that I was not at, when you were discussing the possibility of moving forward with project management contract. It would follow city procurement policies. Yeah, I'm not completely clear on the question.
I'm just wondering, like, who signs that agreement with Cygnus Design?
It would depend on the amount, so it falls underneath our procurement policy, so if it's a specific amount, it could be signed off by a director, but if it's a higher amount, it would come to council.
But we don't have that number yet?
It's right here. I'm not sure.
Councillor Charlotte has the number.
Yeah, it's linked to, in the agenda notes there, the budget consideration. Cygnus consulting fees are $45,000. Project management is $10,000. So, looks like they split that part out. But yeah, the full budget's there.
So that, your worship, that would go through the department itself.
Right, okay, awesome, thanks.
Okay, answer your question?
Yeah.
Any further questions on the motion on the table? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Item number 4. Councillor Juncker.
That staff undertake a review of existing policies and bylaws that require either amendments, repeal, or replacement to coordinate a policy framework to support the wayfinding strategy.
Councillor Charlotte seconding it. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Ms. Braun. Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate your time on the wayfinding strategy. Moving on to 11D, Engineering, Climate Change Team Integrated Climate Action. Someone want to put this motion on the table? Councillor Juncker.
That the letter of intent of commitment to the Adaption to Climate Change Team, SFU, Integrated Climate Action for BC Communities Initiative be authorized for signature.
Second for the motion. Councillor Charlotte. Any discussion on the motion or questions? Seeing none, I'm going to ask the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 11E. Ms. Hinton, do you have a presentation?
I do.
Would you like to join us at the podium?
I would.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm here to provide a quick presentation on climate change mitigation in the city of Revelstoke. I am Caitlin Hinton, Climate Change Coordinator, recently employed with the city of Revelstoke. A bit of background. So Revelstoke's commitment to climate action, the city has been a part of this since 2006, which they joined the Canadian Federation of Municipalities Partners for Climate Protection program that did allow for the city of Revelstoke to access the funding in 2019 for the staff grant. That's a part of my employment. 2008, the provincial government allowed municipalities to put in emission reduction policies into the official community plans, as well as the city of Revelstoke signed on to the BC Action Charter, which under this charter the city has committed to becoming carbon neutral in corporate operations, measuring and reporting on greenhouse gas emissions, as well as creating complete, compact, and more energy efficient communities. In 2011, the city adopted a community energy and emissions plan, as well as a corporate emissions reduction strategy, and then has been participating in the Climate Action Revenue Incentive Program which is the city reporting out on actions and measurements to assess the approach to reducing greenhouse gas emissions in city operations. And this is a conditional grant program that provides the city of Revelstoke with 100% of the carbon tax that the city pays to go back into operations. And this is treated as an operational refund that goes into general revenues. So as a part of the staff grant, this position has very specific deliverables tied to it, including the updating of the community energy and emissions plan. So this was a plan that was developed in 2011 that sets out very specific emission reduction targets for the entire community. As we are approaching we're in 2020, I guess, this will be updated. Reflection on if these emission reduction targets are still appropriate for the community as it's grown and changed since 2011 will be assessed. And then the reduction targets will be ratified in the official community plan. And the city has hired the Community Energy Association as a consultant to update the plan. As well as the corporate energy reduction or energy and greenhouse gas emission inventory and reduction strategy. The city has been collecting this data since 2007. You can see the total energy consumption there in a graph from 2018. This plan will also be updated as tied to the deliverables for the staff grant, and this will be very much a cross-departmental initiative to figure out how we can reduce our energy consumption as well as, save on costs, I guess you could say, as well. Another piece to the city of Revelstoke looking at reducing emissions is the BC Energy Step Code. It's a provincially recognized building code that looks at the building envelope and is performance-based around energy efficiency. So working with the Development Services Department is leading this, and I'm supporting on looking at what's best for the city of Revelstoke for building code amendments to be in line with the BC Energy Step Code. And then this is related to the previous resolution, or motion, sorry. It is looking at aligning with an SFU research project to incorporate adaptation into the SEEP, which was previously drafted to just look at mitigation only. So more of an alignment between climate adaptation, which is responding to the changes in climate, and then climate mitigation, which is reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and that's it.
Well, thank you, Caitlin, appreciate that. Councilors, do you have any questions of Ms. Hinton regarding the climate action plan? Councilor Brookstone?
So the city was aiming for a 7% reduction from 2007 levels by 2020? 8%. Any idea how we're doing?
No, the province collects the data, and so as a part of this plan revision, we will be looking at the provincial data and how we're doing.
Okay.
No update yet, but it's coming.
Councilor Elliott?
So that measurement is just vehicles and building structures, is that correct? Just
Yes.
consumables, but it's not addressing our chief greenhouse gas emitters, is our waste, or organic waste, sorry. I'm back to that issue, which is, and our older homes, typically, right? And the STEP code addresses the older home issue, new home issue builds, but it doesn't address or provide incentives for older home upgrades.
Right.
Which is a serious obstacle we have to address.
So Ms. Wade wants to weigh in on the smart turn.
So just regards to the STEP code, right, and the energy efficiency, so there's the new build, you're absolutely correct, which is part of the STEP code in the building bylaw. How we integrate performance-based building with older buildings is something that we're going to have to address moving forward, because there is a difference between how the performance-based measuring is done.
Yeah. more pointed that is the organic waste. To me, I've been chasing on for a while. I'm trying to bang my head against. The CSRD manages our waste, how we deal with it.
And so we'll get those answers for you, Councillor. Any further comments on that?
So this plan, the way it was written, and because there's an existing plan, it'll likely be a revision of it, but it addresses transportation, land use, buildings and renewable energy, as well as solid waste in this plan. So that will be addressed in recommendations.
So we got to transport the organic waste.
Yeah, I know. That's
Ms. Wade and Councillor Shillette.
Yeah, I was just going to wait just to clarify that, so the current seat is based basically at public buildings, and when we go into this next phase of the seat, we look at how we can try to influence the private side of things. So how do we encourage, performance-based buildings, site planning, green infrastructure, like the tree management plan and that kind of stuff. So there'll be other things that will come out of this that we'll be working on. And the other thing will be going back to these targets, looking at them to see if they still are valid, and where we might have to adjust those targets as we go through the data and figure out where we're going to be to hit the 2032 commitment with the climate action.
One more.
My hope is that the climate thing is really a key part of the OCP and the development, and where we go, these have to match if we're going to have a sustainable future. This and OCP updates are big.
Yeah, and on that note, Your Worship, yes, so the sequel is part of the OCP, and then how we go through and doing the OCP, because we also are integrating the community sustainability plan that was never adopted. So that's part of it. So we have all these different pieces of information that are going to inform the OCP, which will then help us go into sustainability checklists and building bylaw, zoning criteria, things like that. So.
Councillor Ryan, do you have a question? Any other questions of Kaylin? Councillor Shillette.
I'm just trying to find the acronym for it. There's so many acronyms, isn't it true? Where UBCM, one of the resolutions that had come forward was talking about codes, and it was similar to step code, but it was intended for existing buildings. I can't remember which community had brought it forward. I want to say, I know it's not Spark, that was a different one. There's some acronym for it, but they were looking at this issue.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes as we move forward.
Otherwise, exciting times.
Thank you, Ms. Hinton. Appreciate your time bringing that forward. There is a presentation, or pardon me, a motion on the table here. We accept this. Does someone want to?
There's actually one that you missed, I feel like, with D, or did we get rid of that? For 11, or is that on there? Like the letter of intent? Did we
F is gone.
Yeah, we did that one.
Yeah. The letter of intent's been done. We're on the E. Report. Councilor Burksville.
I'll put that forwards. The report titled Climate Change Mitigation in Revelstoke, dated January 28th, 2020, written by Stephen Black, Director of Engineering and Public Works, be received for information.
Seconder for that, Councilor Shillette. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on to G, BC Active Transportation Grants. Someone want to put that motion on the table? Councilor Elliott.
An active transportation network grant application be submitted to the province for provision of a framework to develop and promote safe, equitable, active transportation.
Seconder for that motion, Councilor Shillette. Any further discussion on transportation? Councilor Burksville.
Just that it mentions in the report the Integrated Community Sustainability Plan from 2013. I was hoping that maybe it could be circulated to council. I know I read parts of it years ago, and there was a lot of really good ideas in that.
Mine is about that, but yep, we can get it
It's
for you.
online as well, but we'll get it.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion on the table?
Yeah.
Councilor Ryan.
I think the answer is probably no, but can this money be used to acquire land to, like, if it's required to expand trail networks and stuff? Like any of the
Transportation?
grant funding money?
I don't believe so, can it?
No. That's all.
Okay. Any further discussion on the Transportation Network grant?
This is great.
Okay, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Moving on to number 2. Someone put that on for me. Councilor Hill.
That an active transportation infrastructure grant application be submitted to the province for infrastructure funding to provide additional bike parking.
Councilor Ryan, you're going to second that?
Yeah.
All right. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on to Parks, Rec, and Culture. Youth Advisory Committee terms of reference. So someone want to put that on the table for me? Councilor Hill?
That the revised terms of reference for the Youth Advisory Committee dated January 28, 2020 be approved.
Is there a second for that motion? Councilor Elliott, any discussion on the terms of reference for Youth Advisory Committee? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Moving on to Parks and Rec Art Galleries. Councilor Elliott.
And an art galleries concept plan prepared by Miriam Manley, Victoria Strange, Janet Thompson, and Rob Buchanan, dated January 6, 2020, be supported.
Is there a second for that motion? Councilor Charlotte. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Charlotte.
Just I sit on the Public Arts Committee that discussed this. I've been super impressed with the whole process and how they've modified the process based on feedback from that committee and the public. And I think this is going to be a really cool opportunity for our town's culture to grow.
It's really good to see what's already come in our alleys, and it's a great way to get people to see some art as they walk down the alleys, making that shortcut from street to street, or actually encouraging others to come and visit the back alleys. Most towns are trying to keep them out of the back alleys. Here we want them to come and see them because of art, and I'm impressed. I would even love to have some of my buildings involved in that as we move forward. So I'm very supportive of this. So any further discussion on the motion on the table? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on to correspondence. I think all of you have seen the letter there asking me to be appointed to the Revelstoke Collaborative Services Committee. This is dealing with the remote division of family practice. So I'm supportive of that. Family practice, two of the physicians came to me quite a while ago and discussed their plans for the community or what they would like to do moving forward, and asked if I would sit on their committee, and so I agreed. So now at this point they've sent a letter asking if I would sit on that. So I'm going to ask one of you to put this on the table, and let's see if we move this forward. Councillor Charlotte.
That Mayor Gary Sulz be appointed to the Revelstoke Collaborative Services Committee, CSC.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Juncker, any discussion on the motion?
Does this add to your full-time job?
Yeah, it will add to my, but it's a good thing for the community. When we have the physicians reaching out to us to help promote healthcare in our community, I think that it's incumbent upon us to be accepting of that and moving it forward. So, any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Communications, Revelstoke Golf Club thank you letter. Anyone want to comment on that letter? Councillor Juncker.
Yeah, that's great. I honestly didn't think they'd be able to pull that off, and I think that's tremendous, and all the kudos to them. Those numbers are phenomenal. The increase, so way to go.
Yeah. Ms. Slow, did you want to weigh in?
Your Worship, could I make any suggestion that perhaps we put forward a resolution or consider maybe inviting the golf club to come to do a delegation to council? I think it's important that the public understands the accomplishments.
Sure.
Yep. So someone want to put a motion on the table to invite the golf club to do a delegation? Councillor Charlotte, seconder, Councillor Brooks Hill. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor? Motion's carried. So Ms. Lowe, can you put that in the works? Yeah. Absolutely. That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to ask us to go in camera pursuant to section 90.1A of the Community Charter. Someone want to make that motion? Councillor Brooks Hill, Councillor Ryan seconding. All those in favor? Motion's carried. We're going to go into in camera. So thank you, staff, for being here, and we'll take a break before we go in camera.